Welcome to Famous and Gravy, a discussion about quality of life as we see it, one dead celebrity at a time. Now for the opening quiz to reveal this week's dead celebrity.
This person died 2019, age 76. In 1958, when he was 14, his father died immediately after performing at a Friars Club roast for Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
Oh, man. Who was in early TV and he was 14?
Don Rickles?
Not Don Rickles. God, good guess. His dry delivery piqued the interest of Tom Smothers, who offered him a job on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
Early writer for that, George Carlin was on there. I believe Steve Martin was a writer.
You actually know some of the Smothers Brothers, dude. You're a little too good at trivia. It's incredible.
Is it Bob Newhart?
Not Bob Newhart. His younger brother is the renowned comedian and filmmaker Albert Brooks.
Oh, is it Charles Grodin?
Not Charles Grodin, although he's a good candidate. All right. His most famous character was something of a cartoon character, a witless, deadpan parody of bravado-fueled stuntmen like Evel Knievel.
Oh, Dom DeLuise?
Not Dom DeLuise. He played Marty Funkhouser on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, forget this guy's name, the tall guy.
Oh, it's Bob Einstein, one of my heroes.
Today's dead celebrity is Bob Einstein.
No, this is not non-sequitur.
When are you going to introduce me?
Well, maybe we should introduce Super Dave.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
I have not seen you in so long.
I know, it's been a
and
while.
I love you.
What if each of us told a joke and decided who was the better joke?
I goes into a dentist's office. The dentist said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I think I'm a moth."
A moth?
I think I'm a moth. He said, "Well, you have mental problems. You need to go see a psychiatrist." He said, "I know." He said, "You're in a dentist's office." He said, "I know." He said, "What are you doing here? Why did you come here?" He said, "The light was on."
That's a good joke.
Welcome to Famous and Gravy. I'm Michael Osborne.
My name is Amit Kapoor.
And on this show, we choose a celebrity who died in the last 10 years and review their quality of life. We go through a series of categories to figure out the things in life that we would actually desire and ultimately answer a big question. Would I want that life? Today, Bob Einstein died 2019, age 76. Category 1, grading the first line of their obituary. Bob Einstein, whose career as a comedy writer took a quirky turn into television acting as the hapless daredevil Super Dave Osborne, and later as a friend of Larry David's on Curb Your Enthusiasm, died on Wednesday at his home in Indian Wells, California. He was 76. Ahmed,
Okay.
what do you think?
I kind of like it. I want to say right off the bat that I think as we do this obituary or afterwards, I think we're going to have to do some explaining on who Bob Einstein is.
Okay.
Because we have these two references, but there is some obscurity to the man.
Yeah, I mean, with Super Dave in particular, that's hard because Super Dave was a recurring character for, decades who was never, didn't really have his own property exactly. I mean, he sort of did later. He had a movie and there was a TV show, but it was more as a character who show up in places, right? I mean, who else is like that?
Immediately to me, I think Sacha Baron Cohen.
Interesting.
I'm Super Dave Osborne, world famous daredevil. And I'm here to try out for American Idol.
Are you excited?
I can't wait to go to Hollywood. I can't fight this feeling any longer.
Give me your reaction to this obituary.
I think good. They got the two kind of bookends, which they happen to be, of Super Dave Osborne and Larry David's, quote, friend. I think those are definitely what he's best known for. It's completely different generations that know him for that. A lot of people may not even realize that's the same person.
Yeah.
But I think they captured it. I like that he died in Indian Wells. That's essentially Palm Springs. That just seems so right.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. I think it did it justice. I wrote down words that I want to talk about, which are quirky, hapless, and friend.
Well, quirky and hapless leap out to me. I think it's more okay than good. I think there are real problems with this. I don't think it quite got at how revered he was. I mean, there is a comics comic here, kind of, or a writer's writer. Like, the way other people talk about him is a little more elevated than I feel like what they did justice to here in this obituary.
They didn't give the importance factor.
Not at all. I mean, it really just gets into, he had an interesting, quirky turn, and then later was Larry David's friend on a show that you may have heard of. And that's it. There's not a whole lot of elevation here.
I don't think they need to. I mean, I think we've had this discussion before on some people, but I think this guy is extremely important to several dozen people in which he's had incredible influence or incredible friendship and bond. But I don't know that that number's in the tens of thousands in which the New York Times needs to highlight it in the first line of the obituary.
I think that there's a case to be made that his inspiration extends well beyond that core circle and is way more important. I mean, he was in comedy and in comedy writing for many, many decades.
Over 50 years.
And I think his impact and influence is underrated. And I kind of came to that through the research. I'm not sure the New York Times obit writers quite understood his stature in a way. And so to me, it's falling a little bit short. But let's talk about the words.
Okay, so quirky was the first one.
Comedy writer, it took a quirky turn. I love that.
I like it too, because it didn't take a turn into being a sitcom actor.
Yeah.
It took a turn into being just a weird-ass character.
Yeah. All right, hapless daredevil.
Great word, actually, for
Great
that.
word. Hapless is really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess now we have to do the quick description of who Super Dave Osborne was.
You want to take it?
Yeah. So a character born out of variety shows, lived on for several decades, really for as long as Bob Einstein lived in some form.
Yeah.
Did stunts that were always destined to fail, had some dramatic ending to it in which he was severely injured, but he was always dumbstruck by the fact that the stunt didn't work.
Yeah. This is like the comedy version of Evel Knievel. This is the hapless Evel Knievel.
Super Dave, what about today? First, why are you doing it? Secondly, do you honestly think you can make it?
Well, Mike, I've said this before. I'm doing it for two reasons. First of all, I love the challenge. And the second reason, I'm not sure it's more important. I love the money. I'm not a terribly gifted person, so I feel the money I make risking my life is far more than I could make doing anything else.
Okay, go get him, Dave. Incidentally, Super Dave has been outfitted with a special transistorized microphone so that we can be in full contact with him at all times.
All right, I'm okay, Mike. I feel good. Holy shit!
So the other word I wanted to talk about is friend.
Friend of Larry David.
Because he wasn't. And so this is the reveal, right? He was, for all you Curb Your Enthusiasm fans out there, we were talking about Marty Funkhouser,
right?
Who was kind of the anti-friend of Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm. They were frenemies, if you will.
The way Marty Funkhouser, it's like sometimes say my best friend Larry. It's like, we're not best friends. I like the word best friend there.
If you weren't my best friend, I would take my bare hands and pop your head off your neck.
He's not my best friend.
So you want to talk about the word friend as it appears in this obituary?
Yes, because I just think I would have added something else to it. I would have said maybe anti-friend or quote friend. Direct friend to Larry David on Curb Your Enthusiasm seems like they've never seen the show.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so I don't know. This has got some high highs and some low lows.
I think if there's anything that's missing from the first line, it's perhaps hailing from an entertainment family.
By the way, we haven't talked at all about the last name Einstein. Do you think that's a burden?
Well, clearly it was when you name your son Albert.
Yeah, I know.
Is that a burden? No, I don't think I think twice about it. I mean, that is why Albert Einstein became Albert Brooks at age 19, is he knew he was going to be an entertainer.
Yeah, Bob also makes a career out of different names, though. I mean, we've kind of alluded to this earlier.
Well, you can't be a stuntman named Einstein, I don't think, or a fake stuntman.
You can because of the irony, in a way, right? Einstein is a synonym for brilliant, right? That guy's a real Einstein.
Completely.
Right? So I don't know that he played it either way. I guess, if anything, he didn't hurt him. But I don't know. I also have a question about whether or not that jives with the name recognition.
Which, of course, we'll get to. But I don't see great omissions here. I think you see a bigger canyon.
I feel like that whoever wrote this didn't quite do all the homework, call all the people that they needed to have accurately captured. I don't know. It is stature. And I feel like I want to nod to reputation. I think I'm going 6.
Okay.
It's a fairly low score. It's better than average.
Yeah, I'm only agreeing with you that I don't think they watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 8. I'm fairly satisfied.
All right. That seems like the right numbers based on what we talked about. All right, category 2, 5 things I love about you. Here, Amit and I come up with 5 reasons why we love this person, why we want to be talking about them in the first place. You start us off.
Yeah, I'm going to start soft, which will allow us to kind of build the character.
Okay.
I wrote gentle giant.
Interesting.
Those of you that don't have the visual image, Bob Einstein was 6'5".
Yeah.
And as his brother said, 6'5" for a Jew is like 7'2". He was also so gentle. Like every character he played was so sensitive.
I want to say something else. You left my party before dessert. How can you do that? It's not proper etiquette.
I don't subscribe to the wait for dessert rule before you can leave a party.
Yeah, no one cares what you subscribe to, okay? We were trying to recreate what happened 25 years ago, and I said, Larry, would you like to make a toast? And someone said Larry went home to take a shit.
Overall, a very, very gentle giant, especially in character.
It's interesting you point to that. On one hand, I agree, and I guess I want to unpack soft and gentle and whether or not you're talking about sort of personality or physicality or both. There's a certain physique out there that's like goofball athlete. You know, Bob Einstein played college basketball.
Huge limbs.
Yeah.
Totally.
But also there is something like just funny. Like the man, just a picture of him standing there, there's something comical about it, right? It's Will Ferrell-like.
Very much Will Ferrell.
Yeah. In terms of being gentle, I see a kind of physical aspect in his humor, obviously because with Super Dave, there's like getting the shit beat out of him, right? He's getting crunched.
But he was so disappointed every time he did.
Yeah.
He has the sensitivity of a 7-year-old, and he has this almost like cartoonish voice.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this complete contrast to what you see of this 6'5" to 7'2" giant with huge arms who was the center for a respectable NCAA school, but is so sensitive and is just like long-faced when the slightest thing goes wrong or when the slightest emotion is triggered the wrong way. I think it's an extremely likable trait to be a gentle giant. So I'm just zeroing in on the likability of that.
That's good, Amit. All right, my thing number 2, I wrote friendships with other comics. It's not a very good summation, but this is worth talking about. He first gets into comedy writing with the Smothers Brothers in the mid-'60s, and his writing partner and roommate was Steve Martin.
Yeah, they were roommates for 4 years.
Yeah, and this was at the beginning of Steve Martin's career. Steve Martin was nobody then, and they were tight. They were like...
literally the first gig for both of them.
There's that touch point. And then he, worked with Red Fox, who's one of the greats.
Garry Shandling also worked with Red Fox.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Then he is all over The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and David Letterman and Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, he's a Tonight Show fixture. Friends with Jerry Seinfeld, first guy ever to appear on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee twice, and then was also on Arrested Development as Larry Middleman. Right?
Yes.
Those are some insanely great comedy institutions, right? Smothers Brothers, Red Fox, The Tonight Show, Arrested Development, Curb. Like, holy shit. I just love that about him. I like a comedian's comic. I like picturing him in the room with other greats, being able to hold his own, but also clearly having his own unique deadpan style. His ability to not laugh and to hold a straight face when he's telling a joke or when he's on TV and everybody around him is cracking up. That's amazing. I don't know if that should be a separate number 3 or not, but I wanted to call it out.
I can take it and segue into a number 3.
Okay.
But I want to pause for a second because you brought up something that's on my mind.
Oh.
His stage name, Super Dave Osborne.
Yeah.
Where does that sit with you?
It's interesting. So I swear to God, I asked my parents, are we related to Super Dave Osborne? And I can't remember my father's reaction, but he's like, I'm not sure I know who the hell that is. So the answer is...
And your mom, the genealogist, knew exactly. She's like, no, this is exactly who we're related to, Michael.
Not part of the Melville tree.
Okay, so I think you actually introduced my number 3 pretty well. So what you said you liked was the deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
And so I can pick up on that and add a few cards on top of it to make a number 3.
All right.
And I'm going to call that commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
And this is specifically a Super Dave thing, but you see signs of it later in Arrested Development and in Funkhouser.
Yeah.
And the man could keep a straight face the entire time. That is a special kind of funny. I think Jerry Seinfeld talked about this.
He's just playing the reality of this guy. He's not smiling or laughing. And you got to have a lot of confidence in how funny you are to even attempt that. If you're lucky enough to have a thing that works, that's your thing. You don't need more than one thing.
That's something to applaud, something to admire, and something that is way, way, way easier said than done.
We can point to other deadpan humorists out there. His version of it is a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the other part I want to talk about in Commitment, there's two other. There's a B and a C.
Okay.
So the B is he never broke character
Right.
when he did these appearances as Super Dave on The Tonight Show and on Letterman.
Yeah.
He never did an appearance as Bob Einstein on those shows. And he never broke and accidentally laughed and then came back as Super Dave. But also so committed that for 3+ decades showing up as his alter ego on all these shows. That is hard to do.
Yeah.
One, just to sustain it for that many times, but also not grabbing the opportunity to change character or put yourself forward as Bob Einstein, who may be something else and who may pivot into this other career.
Yeah.
So my part C then of Commitment to the Bit is strictly a Super Dave, the big, expensive buildup for one tiny payoff. So these gags that he did were sometimes massive and cost tens of thousands of dollars to build. And it's all just for one pretty quick, simple Looney Tunes laugh.
Do you think we should explain the King of the Road?
That's probably the best one.
Well, it's a sing-along tour, Michael. About 6 months ago, the Sing-Along Society of North America called and said, Super, we think you could help us get rid of profanity on the highway. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, have you ever pulled up alongside a car and seen someone singing to a record? They're happy. So they felt that if I could go on a week-long tour, we're going to cover about 5,000 miles. I'll be singing night and day, that maybe I could be like a Pied Piper. People would follow me, start to sing along, and then when I left, I could leave kind of a musical highway through the world.
So he's basically in this bus, which is an RV, but the top of the bus is essentially the garden of the RV.
And he's like, all right, let's do this. Let's kick off this road trip. There's 10 minutes of buildup.
Kicks it off to King of the Road.
To the song King of the Road. And then within 30 seconds goes underneath a tunnel and it smashes into a bridge like a low overpass.
King of the Road.
And that's it.
And the entire thing collapses. This entire build that they just had payoff for the one thing. It's like when you hear a 4-minute joke and it has one payoff at the end and it's not even that funny.
Yeah.
It's just the commitment is so great. And I think it's so metaphorical to life.
I love that. All right. I'm going to stick on the humor thing for my number 4. Again, I just want to make the case that this guy, had influence. I think you can draw a straight line from Bob Einstein to Will Ferrell in terms of deadpan delivery, in terms of commitment to character and so forth. You can also draw a straight line to Johnny Knoxville and the Jackass franchise. And in fact, Johnny Knoxville said, we owe everything to Super Dave Osborne and Bob Einstein. Bob Einstein, for what it's worth, was reluctant about that. He's like, kids can't do this at home because they can't strap a piano to the top of an RV and drive underneath. And he was reluctant to embrace the Jackass lineage. All of this is to say that I love that he's situated somewhere unique where you can point to the people who influenced him and the people who he influenced. And I think some of the streams that come out of the Bob Einstein lineage are disparate and unique, which speaks to his genius.
Okay.
That's it.
Good.
Okay.
The number 5 I want to give is all around family, love, marriage. You seem to make it work. The question is, do I spill it now or do I save it for our category?
I think we should have it as a thing we love about him, and we'll elaborate on it when we get there. But I think he made the family thing work. Great marriage, commitment to children, and we'll have more to say about that when we get there.
And sibling as well.
Good call on that.
Yeah. The other thing that we'll have to tag on that is just the influence of his parents on his trajectory.
Park your carcass.
Yes.
That's his father.
So all of that coming in a future category, but worth noting that both Michael and I love it.
Actually, that's a pretty good segue. So category 3.
Malkovich.
This category is named after the movie Being John Malkovich, in which you can take a portal into John Malkovich's mind and have a front row seat to somebody's experiences. The point is to imagine what memories or experiences might have been interesting. You could choose one of 100 deadpan moments, but the moment I'm going to go with is a little darker and isn't about that at all. Park Your Carcass
Which was his stage name. There's not his father's actual name.
It's his father's name. Albert Brooks and Bob Einstein and Cliff, their dad, was an entertainer who actually has a Hollywood star and was a fixture in late night. He was giving a roast to Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, the stars of I Love Lucy. He finished the bit and then returned to his seat and dropped dead. Mm-hmm. Bob was 14 when he died. And he's the middle son. And he's devastated. And at the funeral, other comics are doing their bits. They're being funny. Milton Berle, among them, was like trying to entertain people. And the way Bob Einstein describes it, it sounds like crazy inappropriate and very painful. And he's a teenager, suffering from the loss of his father. And they're doing bits. And at that point, he says, I am never going to be part of this entertainment business.
Yeah.
Because he's so insulted by it. The reason this is a Malkovich moment to me is, I guess, I don't know how to process grief. I don't know how anybody processes grief. There's a part of me that wants to believe that humor can be a part of it. Who knows what Milton Berle or anybody else actually said or did at that funeral. Maybe it was inappropriate, or maybe it just felt inappropriate because Bob Einstein's in such a state of pain. I guess I want to be behind those eyes when he's watching a comedy bit and saying, there's nothing funny about this. I have a dead father. And
he's livid. He's grieving and livid.
Yeah, which makes sense. And yet his life takes a totally different turn. So there's something really complicated going on inside that mind. But yeah, I want to know. I want to know what's going on there.
Yeah.
We started talking about his dad, and Adam said, well, your dad, he died doing what he loves. And Super Dave takes a minute and goes, that is so stupid. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What does your father love to do? And Adam goes, he likes to play the trumpet. He goes, I hope your father chokes to death on a trumpet. I hope your father swallows a trumpet while he's playing and dies. And then you could say, oh, he died doing what he loves.
This may be some of the Gentle Giant sensitivity I had, and maybe this was a blind spot in Bob Einstein, is make all the jokes you want, just not about my father.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know if I made our podcast dark and sad here, but it struck out to me, and it's something that he called attention to, and this becomes a defining moment in his life in a way.
Yeah. So you teed me up for my Malkovich. You've done this quite nicely today, Michael.
Thank you.
And for the listeners, we don't plan this. This just happens. This is just flow.
So, yeah, what do you got? What's your Malkovich?
Somewhere in between that age 14 and a half and Bob Einstein being about 5 years into his post-college advertising career,
We should pause on that. He says no to entertainment. He goes to
Chapman College,
plays basketball, and goes into a career in advertising. He's going to write ad copy.
Correct, which, as we know, requires humor, right?
Yes.
This is absolutely the Mad Men era of advertising.
Right.
Right? And he is a copywriter. These are the funny people, and this is how they make up for the fact that they didn't work in pure entertainment as they go into copywriting and become wealthy and try to live with themselves.
Do you want to list their names? So Bob goes into advertising.
There is a guy that they use for voiceovers in some of the ads that he did, and that guy's name was Bob Arbogast. And Bob Arbogast was a radio guy who also had a once-a-week talk show, sort of like a comedy talk show, but he's not a big name. This isn't Tonight Show. And Bob Einstein gets this idea and says, hey, can I go on your show tonight? And he gets this idea that he was going to go on the show and he's going to play a character of the guy who lays the Hollywood stars in the cement.
Like laying it out and doing the stenciling and all of it.
Literally a construction worker, like a contractor.
Right, I make the Hollywood stars.
Yes.
The other day, I saw a star in the sidewalk with the name Arnold Fillmore in it and a camera underneath it. And I didn't know who Arnold Fillmore was. What is your name, please, sir?
I'm Arnold Fillmore. It sounds funny, but that's my name.
Okay, why did your name get in? Are you a celebrity?
No. No, I'm not.
Why is your name in one of the stars on the sidewalk?
My first job, I had 2 wet patches of cement, stars, and I was only given one name by my superior, and I couldn't let the other go to waste, and I thought it was a great chance.
So I love the invented career so much.
The guy who lays down the Hollywood stars,
Yes,
like somebody's got to do that.
This is absolutely my shtick, or was my shtick with me and my friends when we go to bars, just making up ludicrous professions as we talk to people. So we'd like go up maybe to girls and they're like, well, what do you do? And it would be like, well, have you ever seen a skyline? And they're like, yeah. And like, well, have you ever wondered who decided which lights are on and which are off? And they're like, no, we just assume that the buildings decide. We're like, no, I am
the light skyline designer.
Yeah, I'm a skyline designer. So every night it's these buildings are my canvas, and I draw them out and I go and I flip all the switches to make the skyline every night. And we would just have a complete commitment.
That's beautiful.
Okay, here's another one. Okay, so I work in a hospital.
Yeah,
I'm a baby namer. They said, what? And they're like, yeah, so a lot of times new parents have a child and they think that they'll have an inspiration because they'll look into his eyes or her eyes and they'll name him. But factually, that doesn't happen 34% of the time. And so I'm there as part of the medical staff and they bring me in.
I'm a staff baby neighbor.
And I'm just on staff to name your baby.
Yeah.
And
they could probably actually use this. This is good.
Yeah,
I love this invented job.
So,
right,
so Bob Einstein, I want to do that. I want to make up a profession and say that on television.
Yeah.
I've been in this business for a long time. I've been in radio, I've made records, I've written songs, I've been in movies, I've done television, and my name is not in a star in any sidewalk in Hollywood, and I want to know why not. How would I go about getting my name in a sidewalk?
Do you have $10?
The next day, he got a call from Tom Smothers of the Smothers Brothers saying, I saw you on Arbogast's show. How would you like to write for the Smothers Brothers? So he basically does this one thing saying, hey, I think I can do this. I think I can go up there and be funny.
And
it's got to be somewhere in his head and I'll be a hero.
Yeah.
To me, this is like when you're a kid and you're just like dreaming and fantasizing that, okay, maybe I'm at a football game and maybe they like run out of players. Maybe they'll just ask me to come in and be a receiver. Yeah. And I'll go in and I'll catch the winning touchdown. Yeah. And this is what Bob Einstein did at the moment is he's like, I'm just going to step up to the plate. And lo and behold, he becomes a hero. I think it's magical.
So I feel like we should mash these two Malkovich moments together because my funeral moment was largely about him saying, I don't want to be part of entertainment. And this moment is about, hey, entertainment's wanting you to come to us. But the question in my mind is like the inner conflict.
What resolved in the next 12 years?
Yeah, I mean, something had to happen in there.
So, I mean, I think it's this. I go back to the fact that he was 14, and I don't think a 14 can comprehend that there is humor and celebration in death.
Yeah.
I will stick by that.
Yeah.
I think he goes through, he plays college basketball, he discovers this likability, this gentle giantness in him, and that he actually does make people not only laugh, but just makes them happy. His presence at being this giant deadpan goofball is contagious and it is affirming and it's cozy and everyone loves it. He said, well, perhaps this is my destiny.
It's good, Malkovich. All right, let's pause. Are you looking at my books?
I am. I'm actually looking at your bookshelf. I want to see if there is anything that I can give as a gift to somebody.
With my permission, I assume.
Well, no, I was just going to take it off your shelf.
Wait, don't take it from me. I put time into this bookshelf. I actually want these books there. However, if you're looking to get some of these books, know a great store you can go to. Half Price Books. They're likely to have this entire catalog in their bookstore. And if not in their bookstore there, they can order it for you.
But the thing is, I trust you. There's nowhere else that I can find a trusted bookseller to give me an equal recommendation.
Sir, I disagree. You can find a trusted bookseller at Half Price Books. Ask a Half Price Books bookseller if you don't know what to read next, or if you're looking for a gift idea.
Really?
Oh my goodness, yes. The Half Price Books booksellers are knowledge keepers. They're there to help you navigate their tremendous catalog.
Excuse me, I've got to go now.
Oh, good, because Half Price Books is the nation's largest new and used bookseller, with 120 stores in 19 states. And Half Price Books is online at hpb.com. Category 4, love and marriage. How many marriages? Also, how many kids? And is there anything public about these relationships? One wife, Roberta, I had a hard time getting info on her. I wasn't even 100% sure when they were married. I saw that they were married over 40 years, but I didn't see a marriage year or a marriage date. I really
very little info. And the daughter was from a previous, not in marriage, but I think his daughter was not.
It wasn't a biological mom, was not Roberta?
No, I don't believe so.
I got confused on some of this. I mean, it was actually really hard to find. But we started to talk about this a second ago. He also had a few grandchildren, and he made it work. Like, this is the thing I think is so striking, that he would schedule things around the school year so that he could be there and be present as a father. And that translated to when he was a grandfather as well, which is just crazy notable because most entertainers, whether it's in music or film or whatever, just have bonkers schedules. It makes it look like the family life is all but impossible. You may be a great guy, a great dad, or a great mom or whatever, but actually being present is really hard. He scheduled things so that he would be able to.
This was a clear priority for him. And when he couldn't, he took her.
Yeah.
He took her on, I mean, he wouldn't let it interfere with school or whatnot, but he would take her to any set or any filming or whatnot.
Yeah, and she did not go into entertainment, nor have any of the grandkids thus far anyway.
No.
Which is sort of interesting because it's an entertainment family, the dad and, of course, the younger brother, Albert. The family was almost completely silent when he died, though. Other than Albert Brooks. Like, there was no, like, big social media postings or anything like that.
Because I just don't think that was them.
Yeah.
I think they do their own thing, and they say in the documentary, in the Super Bob Einstein movie.
We called him Papa Super because he was Super Dave Osborne, and we thought he was always, like, a superhero.
I remember distinctly there was a time he comes into my room and he's like, let's go to In-N-Out. And I'm like, okay, I'm not complaining. And we're driving to In-N-Out, and he's on the phone with a friend. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and he's like, Ethan, plug your ears for this joke. Your mother will kill me if she knows that you heard this.
I still am not allowed to watch Curb Your Enthusiasm or anything. I'm the most emotional person ever. I don't know, there was just always a way to, like, make the day better. There was always a joke that could, like, brighten our days.
So the fact that we don't hear a lot from the family when he dies, that tells you, like, there's something healthy here, there's something good. I mean, like...
There is a private life, and it's a family life that's probably not that different than what we're used to.
Yeah.
It started in tragedy, losing his father at 14. The relationship with the brothers, I think that...
I sensed a little tension there.
I think there is a little tension.
I mean, brother rivalry, maybe that's natural. They're all kind of clustered in age.
Yeah, they're all kind of clustered in age. They all are brilliant minds of different varieties. Two of them happen to be comics.
Yeah.
But completely different styles of comics.
Totally.
But the times that they did collaborate, which was really just that one time in modern romance.
It's a great clip. Like, I have never seen that whole movie, but that clip of Albert Brooks with Bob Einstein is hilarious.
Yeah, totally. And we'll put that in the show notes.
Sure.
But so the question I had for you is, Roberta said, he could make me laugh every day.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you as a married person, how much does that matter?
Oh, are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
A lot.
Okay.
Full stop. A lot. Yeah. Oh, my God. I think I would sum it up by saying my wife and I can crack each other up. Like, she's a very funny woman. It's one of the things I love about her.
She is funnier than you.
And that's fine. But I can also make her laugh, too. Like, it's just tension release. That's what it always is. Sometimes it's a cue that our fight is now done. If we've had a big discussion about money or about kids or about the house or about, future plans or whatever is stressing us out, most of the time those conversations are no fucking fun to have. But, if at the end of them, there's a laugh, you're like, okay, something's been released. Something that had to happen has happened. Also, there's just truth and humor. Like, it's a way of making sure that you are looking at the world the same way, that your kind of view on life and what you're doing and what you're trying to get out of it is aligned. It's not just that I enjoy her sense of humor. It's that it's a foundation piece of a healthy marriage. And I think we do laugh every day. It's not necessarily that's a point, but it should be that frequent. So yes, I'm anybody who says he made me laugh every day, I think that that's not just like he was ribbing me every day. It's that we loved each other.
And I think what you said is that it's humorous truth-telling.
Yes.
Right? It's how you identify that you're on the same page.
Yeah, it's alignment. It's alignment. It's 100%. Yeah. Category 5?
Mm-hmm.
Category 5, net worth. Google the net worth of any dead person, and for better or worse, you'll get an answer. I saw $6 million.
Yes, that's what I saw.
Kind of makes sense.
Great number.
It's a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that wanted it to be a little higher, but it's not going to be higher.
No, it's not going to be higher.
And it doesn't have to be higher. And he's in, Indian Wells, right next to Palm Springs, is a great place.
Yes, where Sonny Bono was mayor, who he once wrote for.
What to say about this, $6 million? I don't know that I have a whole lot of reaction to it other than it feels about right.
It feels about right. I think it's a lot of curb money.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think Super Dave Osborne was this long-running franchise that existed as part of a variety show. It existed. You don't get paid for late night talk segments.
So you get a few $100. It's like an honorarium.
Yes. So he would get that. There was a cable spinoff. There was an animated series at one point. It was a super, super, no pun intended, big deal in the late 80s, early 90s. But just because of its
moneymaker, though.
Just because of its ubiquity, not because it was like raking in box office
Yeah,
sales.
the exposure is pretty damn good there. I mean, it's funny. I did listen to a podcast in the mid-2010s where somebody asked him about that, and they said, we saw $5 million. And he kind of makes a joke about it. It was fun to hear his reaction to it. And he's like, well, come visit me in Palm Springs. You can see my $5 million house.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a whole lot to be said in this.
To me, it's rich, and it's the type of rich I want out of that guy.
Yeah.
I don't want him flipping hundreds to the maitre d'. Yeah. Like, for Bob Einstein, that's perfect.
It's good market value.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, category 6. Simpsons, Saturday Night Live, or Hall of Fame. This category is a measure of how famous a person is. We include both guest appearances on SNL or The Simpsons, as well as impersonations. This is interesting to me because it's 0 for 4. He was never on The Simpsons. He was never on Saturday Night Live. He does not have a Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was never even on Arsenio. What's so interesting to me about that is that he managed to sidestep the 4 pillars that you and I have in this category and show up at every other big fame-making institution outside of that. The Tonight Show, Arrested Development, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and The Late Show with Letterman, too. I mean, he's freaking everywhere except Simpsons, Saturday Night Live, or Hall of Fame. And I don't know, once again, has me thinking about our category. I think we may have gotten it right. He's not a household name.
He's no name recognition.
Yeah, and so maybe, he would never voice The Simpsons, even though his brother, Albert, is all over it. He never was on SNL, even though Albert was also involved with SNL. And, there is that show Bizarre that he was on that I didn't know about, but I've heard a lot of people talk about. There was a Killer Bees skit that he did, and he interrupted the skit and said, okay, this is a clear ripoff of Saturday Night Live. This is not okay. So he nods to Saturday Night Live, but Saturday Night Live never nods back. His dad has a Hollywood star. He doesn't. And he's all over late night talk shows and somehow misses Arsenio.
You know what's funny is the precursor to Saturday Night Live is all of these variety shows. And they would claim to be edgier and more individualistic.
Yeah.
But the marquees of those were the Smothers Brothers, Sonny and Cher, the Dick Van Dyke Show, all of these things that he was very integral in starting. And it's just weird that he sidestepped.
100%. I mean, even Super Dave Osborne is basically an SNL character.
Flying into Weekend Update.
I mean, seriously, he manages just skirt around every single institution you and I happen to have in this category without hitting it.
Yeah, I think he did do it In Living Color, though, as a guest DJ.
It would make sense. In Living Color's not in our category here.
Yes.
So kind of not famous.
Exactly right. To me, this is like a mid-level CEO type of success. Largely, hugely successful, very wealthy, but enough to have a private life, enough not to be bothered.
Yeah, it's not an annoying level of going to get swarmed by the paparazzi and harassed. He can probably go into Applebee's and not have anybody tap him on the shoulder. All right, shall we move on?
No, because I do want to talk about pop culture for a second.
Okay.
What I want to point to is the presence in rap songs.
Oh,
did you see this?
I did, actually, but I'm glad you made note of this. I meant to mark
Super Dave as a name got dropped by...
It's like Tupac?
Yeah, there's Tupac, Fat Joe, Tribe Called Quest, and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And so I did this earlier today. I was like, I'm going to go find the lyrics to where they talk about Super Dave.
I'm glad you put this together.
Yeah, so fun fact, I cannot find a single one that the N-word is not used like almost immediately around Super Dave. But I'll just give a little.
Really?
So, yes.
Smoke blunts, believe them stunts up to Super Dave.
Yeah, I'm rated X, in sex, I flex like Lex Luger. So who's next to get scooped about this roughneck from Cuba? Who do maneuvers like Super Dave? Always down with the pilgrims, just a super slave. You don't have to bring us ass up like Super Dave.
We made the MCs cause the MCs say we flipping on niggas like we Super Dave.
Well, so when I look back at it, Super Dave was appealing, especially from us coming from the communities that we come from. It seems like no matter what he tried or what he tried to do, he would always end up on the wrong side of it, right? And that's kind of like how we all kind of grew up.
This really should have been in the 5 things category.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
You can't redo.
You can't go back, but I'm so glad we got this in there.
Okay.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
All right. Category 7, over under. In this category, we look at the life expectancy for the year somebody was born to see if they beat the house odds and as a measure of grace. Life expectancy for a man in the U.S. born in 1942 is 71.4 years old. He died age 76.
Okay, just barely.
A little bit over. I thought it was going to be like right around in the median, right? That's within the standard deviation easily.
It's sad.
It's sad. I mean, everything I saw was got cancer. They didn't specify which kind of cancer, and then went fast.
Yeah.
So it was like diagnosis, and then a few months later, gone.
Correct. He only did 22 episodes of Curb, like the most 2 recent seasons he wasn't on.
Right.
I don't think they said what happened to the character within the plot of Curb
Yeah,
Your
there's
Enthusiasm.
actually an interesting article because like Albert Brooks playing Albert Brooks does show up, and it's sort of like this meshing of universes, right? So there's nods to it, and then I think Vince Vaughn's character is on there playing somebody in the Funkhouser family.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet, but anyway, I mean, fast, tragic, and sad. 76.
Yeah, just not god awful, but this again points to a hole in this number, right?
To me, this is normal.
It's not exactly.
God damn it! Yes, it is. 76 is normal.
No, it isn't. When we say a 72-year-old life expectancy, it is including everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's including all income levels. It's including people that are born severely disadvantaged economically, and we know that just by the conditions, environments, and all of these things that they're not going to live that long. If either of our parents died at 76, it is sad.
What to say? This category's gotten more interesting and complicated as our show has gone on.
We're talking vocabulary here, right?
Yeah.
It's not tragic, but it is sad, and it is too soon.
I can agree with all that. I mean, he was still acting and still making people laugh, and he had more to give as a performer, and in that sense, it feels premature. At the same time, it's a pretty long, rich life.
Yeah, and let's talk through this. Is this sad or beautiful? Is that he kind of had 2 mountains, right?
Yeah.
He had the Super Dave mountain, and then he had the Marty Funkhouser mountain.
Yeah.
And he was pretty much right at the top of the second mountain.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't know. The template for me to this is Johnny Cash. I mean, Johnny Cash, in a way, had 2 music careers, right?
Yeah.
There's the early stuff, which is sort of classic, country. And then there's all the stuff he did with Rick Rubin. It was a whole different chapter of his life, and they got better and better. And he kind of died at the peak of his second mountain, and I think beautifully.
Because you saw the rise of the second mountain. So all you saw was the ascendancy, and you didn't see a second
This
descendancy.
is something you and I used to talk more about, too. We haven't talked about as much, the staircase up, right? Like, Bob Einstein's still doing funny shit in his 60s and 70s,
But I think
right?
that's the beauty, right? What we haven't talked about is multiple staircases.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think his ever went down. I think it went up, and maybe the steps were just not as steep.
It ebbed. I mean, you pointed to this a second ago. Like, we could have forgotten all the Super Dave kind of like, Jackass comes about. Super Dave is not as funny. There was a risk of fading from relevancy. And then that did not happen because of Curb.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it. What both him and Johnny Cash found was not a new staircase up, but just another door, which is an additional staircase to just go higher.
Bravo. Like, I think it's going out great. He didn't suffer, it doesn't sound like, right? He got the diagnosis and he's gone.
He did it right. It would be great to see him throughout the culmination of Curb, if there ever is one.
Yeah.
All of the family things, young grandchildren, all of that is sad. We want more time with that. Given the choices that he had and his ability to find new opportunity and keep renewing his creative spirit, I think he did it brilliantly.
I agree. Dare I say gracefully.
Agreed.
Let's pause.
Danielle Steele.
Oh, alive.
The rules are simple. Dead or alive. Danielle Steele is still with us at 74 years old. Dick Cavett.
I think Dick Cavett is dead.
Incorrect. Dick Cavett is still with us at 85 years old.
Oh.
Test your knowledge. deadoraliveapp.com.
First of the introspective questions, category 8, Man in the Mirror. What did they think about their own reflection? What do you got here?
This was, to me, the hardest question to answer.
Why is this hard? Because he's a handsome goofball, kind of.
He's a handsome goofball. He plays a klutz in Super Dave Osborne.
But he's also kind of a stud. You know, I mean, he looks good in the jumpsuit. There's a confidence.
This was a real-life college basketball player.
Totally.
Right? Like, he's going to maintain some of that throughout his life.
He's got a little swagger.
But this freakishly tall aspect of him that he parlayed into being a straight-faced comedian.
Was he lanky?
He was definitely lanky.
Okay.
Well, my question is his style of humor.
Yeah.
Somewhat self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Straight man with filthy jokes.
Yes.
Thing. I'm just, it's all seems like it comes from some place of weirdness and some insecurity. And so I think this fish out of water does feed into just some of this, where do I fit?
It's like he's placed somewhere funny. Okay, this is a little bit of a tangent, but bear with me. Okay, you know the character Pigpen?
Yes.
This is one of my favorite cartoon panels of all time. There's no text on it. You see Pigpen, it's a 4-part panel, and he is filthy. He gets into a shower. You see him wash out of the shower, and he gets out of the shower, and there's a little bit of dirt around him, and he towels off, and there's a little bit more, and then he walks out of the bathroom with his clothes, and all of a sudden he's just surrounded by the cloud of dirt again.
Yeah.
It's as if, like, this kid cannot get clean. He is always destined. He's been placed in a situation of permanent dirtiness. I think Bob Einstein has kind of been placed in a position of permanent comedic disposition. Right? His body is kind of goofy and funny. His surroundings, his family environment is kind of filled with like a certain humor. It's almost like it's a destiny, but a little bit awkward because what's so freaking funny? Like, why is this funny? So does he see that when he looks in the mirror?
He sees that he is funny and he is funny looking.
Yeah.
But
he's also kind of handsome. I'm going yes, Amit.
I'm not going to agree with you.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between liking the way you look and liking yourself. I think his style of humor is derived from the discomfort about how he feels about how he looks. I think he likes himself, but I'm going no to Man in the Mirror.
Okay, I'm flipping.
No,
I'm flipping. That's a great argument, and I've changed my mind.
Stand your fucking ground for once.
This is a healthy thing for an individual to do. So we both agreed, Man in the Mirror. He didn't like it. Category 9, outgoing message. Like Man in the Mirror, we want to know how they felt about the sound of their own voice when they heard it on a voice answering machine or outgoing voicemail, and would they have left it? Or would they have used the default setting when leaving their voicemail? What do you got here?
I want to ask a question first. So his voice is notorious, right? He has this like
it's kind of strained.
Raspy, sounds like he has like he's getting over a cold. Is there anything medical behind it?
It's just age mostly because he didn't have it.
It wasn't like that earlier.
It wasn't like that earlier. It's as he goes on.
Gravelly was the word that they used to describe.
Yeah, it's really unique.
Voice.
It's really unique.
Okay, I've never said this to you before.
Yeah.
You're brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I invented this.
Look, she texted me right back. I love you. What a great man to stick up for me like that.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
I think
I'm on the fence here.
I'm going yes. I think it's a signature.
Then I'm going no, because I'm going to stand my ground.
Good. Thank God.
All right. I'm a lean no. You went yes. Why yes?
I think it's a
signature.
I think it's a signature. That wasn't that awkward in these formative years.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Marty Funkhouser or Larry Middleman is as funny without it. And I think it's a signature, and I think he likes it.
Okay, I'm going no, and here's why. I think it sounds like it's hard to talk. I think it sounds like it's
a painful
exertion.
A lot of cough drops.
Every time he opens his mouth, it's sort of like takes something. And he wants to talk. He wants to express himself. But this voice is like holding him back from everything in a way. It's almost a reverse of what you said for Man in the Mirror. He likes that he has it, but I don't think he likes it. I think it works to his advantage, but I think actually talking and using his voice takes something out of him.
You know, when you Google Bob Einstein and like Google has their suggested searches, like one of the most common things is what happened to Bob Einstein's voice.
Yeah.
The answer is nothing.
Yeah, right. That's just what happened.
Yes.
Just what happened. It's his body.
So the second part of the question, would he actually do the act
100%.
of recording it? No question.
No question at all. All right. Category 10, regrets, public or private. What we really want to know is what, if anything, kept this person awake at night? I don't have a lot here. So did you see the thing? I think Jimmy Kimmel talked about how, like, after Super Dave would come on his show and do a skit, he would call Jimmy Kimmel the next day and be like, wasn't I great?
Yes.
You know? He's like, Jimmy Kimmel's laughing about this. Like, nobody else ever calls me the next day to talk about last night's show. I'm on to the next thing.
Sarah Silverman said the same thing, is that whenever Bob Einstein delivered a funny joke, he'd be like, how funny was that, everybody?
Yeah, totally. So I think that's funny, but I also think that's coming from a genuine place. I also wonder if he feels like he didn't get enough recognition, that he did manage to skirt around The Simpsons, Saturday Night Live, and, Arsenio Hall, right? That maybe there was a different set of choices and it had something to do with whatever happened between age 14 and age 24 when he says, I'm not going to be part of entertainment. And it says, I am going to be part of entertainment. Like, he invests in himself in a way once he gets into it, but it's all on-the-job training. When he gets the job with the Smothers Brothers, figures it out with his new buddy, Steve Martin, and they crack each other up, right? And he goes on to work on Red Fox.
But he sure as hell didn't become Steve Martin.
Right. I wonder if he looks back on his career that, like, I didn't quite reach the heights that maybe I could have if I had, I don't know, known something more about myself at an earlier age, maybe.
I think it's a really good one because there's some signs, the way that he tells jokes in such a classic way.
Yeah.
He's like, do you want to hear a joke?
Want to hear a joke?
Oh, geez.
He knows he's funny.
Yes.
Right. The exact reason he's calling Jimmy Kimmel and calling Sarah Silverman, he's like, I know I'm funny. I know I killed it. Please repeat after me that I did.
Tell people that. Right.
So yeah, maybe there was a part of him that's like, I am one of the best. I am one of the funniest out there. And it's like working in a company and like the levels of management above you, you know that you are so much smarter than, so much better than, but you're just looking at this greater tier of success when you know that you are actually so much funnier.
Yeah.
And so maybe he does regret not rising to it, considering that he had the exact same starting point as Steve Martin, but he took this route of a goofy character actor.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a private one.
You got something else?
Yeah, I'm on private, being an asshole on set.
Yeah.
You know, I said he was gentle, which I think is true, but I think to get shit done, a lot of the people said, like, he was really hard on us.
And he was the executive producer. I mean, he was in charge of, and the star for most of the Super Dave activities.
Yeah, and maybe that's what maybe that's just what you have to do when you're creating these extravagant stunts that have all this detail. Maybe you have to do that. Maybe you just have to be an ass kicker in order to do it. But people still talked about it, that they're like, oh my God, Bob Einstein, like one of the funniest people, one of the nicest people, one of the most caring people, tough as nails when we're actually shooting.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I'm glad you called it out because it really does need to be pointed out that like there were people who were like, this was difficult to work with. This was not like an easy set. All right, category 11, good dreams, bad dreams. This is not about personal perception, but rather, does this person have a haunted look in the eye, something that suggests inner turmoil, inner demons, or unresolved trauma?
I see it a little bit. I think we've actually covered this topic quite a bit through our other ones.
Yeah.
What I will say is I see it a little bit in kind of the heavy eyes, and it also just fits with his deadpan delivery. If it's there and I'm going to give a reason, I think there is this sort of unresolved conflict of feeling livid at your father's 14-year-old
Yeah,
funeral
who am
than
I?
being exactly that person.
Yeah, and comedy surrounds me like Pigpen getting out of the shower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is an unresolved conflict, and maybe that's a little bit of the heaviness in the eye, but I don't see bad dreams associated with that. I think I think unresolved conflicts are singular. I don't think they are existential crises in him.
You know, as I was preparing for this recording and I got to this question, I was like, I really had to think about it. And then I actually did decide to go look at some pictures and just see if I could see it. And I didn't see it. I think there's some darkness. It's not zero darkness, but overall I see good dreams.
Yep.
I see largely at peace with himself. Okay, category 12, coffee, cocktail, or cannabis. This is where we ask which one would we most want to do with our dead celebrity. It's maybe a question of what kind of drug sounds like the most fun to partake with this person, or another philosophy is that a particular kind of drug might allow access to a part of them we are most curious about. I wrote cocktail. It's funny. Usually when I want the humor, I go cannabis, but I do think that there's a kind of like under the surface outrageousness to him. I do wonder if he doesn't get a little bit more physical and slapstick and kind of really great drunken debauchery with Bob Einstein. Like, I think it'd actually be fun to not just have a drink with him, but to like get fucking smashed and do stupid shit.
Yes.
And I want to have that experience because I think I'd laugh my ass off.
There was a Jimmy Kimmel sketch with Adam Carolla where they like try to do 100 shots each.
Yeah, I saw that.
And who better to get drunk with than the greatest daredevil of all time?
I can't think of anyone. Take a look now as we do 100 shots with Super Dave Osborne.
You know, this is the first time I've had any drinks since my new liver.
Congratulations. Your new liver.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I tell you something? Let me tell you. No. I gotta tell you. No, you've been joking all night. I gotta tell you something about Jimmy.
Like, that sounds perfect. That sounds like the Bob Einstein I want to like hang out with. And I mentioned he's got this sort of frat boy quality to him.
Yeah.
That like, I think I would just laugh a lot. I think that there would be no shortage of jokes and humor. I don't know that it would go anywhere. I don't know that it would be a point to it. And that's just fucking fine. Let's just get stupid drunk and make idiots of ourselves and see what happens.
Yeah. That was pretty much my answer for Jaja, if you remember.
I do remember that.
Let me tell you what I want to do, and then let's have a discussion about the substance.
Okay.
So what I want to do is break him. I want to make him laugh.
Yeah.
Right? I want to
okay,
make that
okay.
that deadpan face. I want to make that stoicism. I want to crack it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is the job of cocktails or the job of cannabis. So my question to you, Michael, then is if I want to break somebody, if I want to cut it up with somebody and just get into a flow session where we're just making jokes, but I want to do my damnedest to see if I can break him.
I think it's probably cocktail. I think you probably need a loosening of inhibitions because I could see a hardening of mindset when a certain kind of high.
Yeah, but does it crack with laughter in a guy like that?
Look, man, maybe when you get underneath it, maybe it's all the same shit. I'm not sure there is such a difference between the deep sadness and the deep laughter in a way. You know, I mean,
that goes back to the funerals, right?
Yeah, all you know is that there's a big pot of emotion trapped inside that you're curious to get to. So it may be both once you get them just drunk enough.
Yeah. Okay, so there's my answer.
Like tequila shots or...
What is the word that they use if you get a beer and a shot? They've got a word that they use for it now that like you order it off a menu and you get like a pearl and a Jim Beam. I'm not the one to
ask about this.
Okay. My friends and I call it a derecha because the shot is to the right.
Derecha.
But there is an actual name of it. Yeah, basically I just want to do a bunch of those.
That's what that looks
beer
like.
shot, beer shot, beer
That makes
shot,
sense.
beer shot, beer shot.
I see it.
Yeah.
All right, we're there. Final category, the Vanderbeek, named after James Vanderbeek, who famously said in Varsity Blues,
I don't want your life.
Ahmet, based on everything we've talked about, do you want Bob Einstein's life?
Take a walk with me through Bob Einstein's life.
Yeah.
So he was obviously very affected by his father's death. I wouldn't want that by any means. I think the career, which is really what we know and what we focus on, I think he knocked it out of the park on both of those. I think he threw a Hail Mary to try to get into a career which he knew he was good at, and perhaps 50 years later, he even knew that he was better than everyone else at. But I think he was a master of these little worlds that he created. There was nobody else like Super Dave Osborne doing what he was doing. So within his own worlds, he was a master.
Really dancing to the beat of his own drum. It's funny that we haven't used that phrase yet because it really applies to this guy.
Some people aspire to be king of the world, but all you have to do is just be king of your own world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he was. And like you said, highly revered. The way that Jerry Seinfeld and Steve Martin and Larry David and Sarah Silverman and all these people talk about him as a comedic genius, a sweetheart. There's so much to like about it, but I think he also navigated success very well. This was a guy with real success that he created himself uniquely.
Yeah.
It seems like he had a wonderful relationship with his wife. I saw even in the interview, which was done a few years after he died, I mean, you could still see love and affection in her eyes.
Yeah.
The way the children and the grandchildren talk about him was incredible. So, yes, I want your life, Bob Einstein.
Excellent argument. There's really nothing unassailable in there. Nothing hapless for sure. I've got a hesitation here with a yes on the Vanderbeek, and let me see if I can talk out why. For me, it has something to do with what's missing from what comedy is all about. You know, we talked in a handful of episodes, I want to say Garry Shandling, maybe Joan Rivers, you know, humor as a kind of like coping mechanism for dealing with the pains of life, right? He is a really funny guy, but he also looks confused to me somehow. You know, I talked earlier about humor as truth-telling, right? Or humor as truth exploration, right? That part of the reason we laugh, part of the reason we love great comics is that they can point out the things that all of us should be seeing and we don't see, right? And we laugh in recognition of those truthful moments. His humor isn't exactly like that. His humor is a little bit more superficial. And I don't want to denigrate that. It's not that there's anything wrong with superficial, but it also doesn't point to me to any like sort of deeper enrichment. You know, on the family and career and relational wealth scores, he does score high. I mean, good money, great family, great career, great friends. All of that is like obviously desirable, but there's something that I see here, and I don't know exactly what it is, that looks kind of like a permanent state of frustration. Something that I don't understand this confusing world, and I guess I'll just, you know, laugh my way through it in a way that I'm not sure like provides any kind of like real emotional relief at some point. I wonder if he was ever able to grieve. I wonder if he was ever able to deal with his anger. I wonder if he was ever able to make sense of the world and of what he was given and what he was denied. I think I'm a no. And maybe that's not a good enough reason, but there's something I can't quite put my finger on other than to say I'm not sure what the point was. And at least today, I think I need purpose, and I'm not sure he got purpose enough for me. But I feel like the man's redeemable.
Okay.
Ahmet, you are Bob Einstein. You've died. You've gone to the Unitarian proxy for the afterlife, St. Peter. Floor is yours.
I've always wondered if telling a lot of dirty jokes in your life stops you from getting into heaven. And I guess this is where I find out. In case that's not a deal breaker, here's what I did. My granddaughter said this about me that I found a way to make every day better. Most of that was through jokes and humor. There's a lot of jokes out there. There's a lot of humor out there. It's everywhere nowadays, certainly since I started out. But what I did is just when you think you've seen it all, just when you think you've heard it all, I put out the new twist, and I still make you laugh. And wasn't that hilarious, what I did? Let me in.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Famous and Gravy. If you're enjoying our show, please tell your friends about us. Help spread the word. Find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @FamousAndGravy, and we also have a newsletter which you can sign up for on our website, famousandgravy.com.
Famous and Gravy was created by Amit Kapoor and me, Michael Osborne. This episode was produced by Jacob Weiss. Original theme music by Kevin Strang. Thanks for listening. See you next time.